Welcome, Kimberly. We're so excited to have you. The last time that you guys were
Thank
here,
you.
maybe a couple of years ago. So I'm so glad you could join us. Um, I was thinking this morning, Sally emailed me and said, can you believe, thank you for having Kimberly. Can you believe we're in our 33rd year, which
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
as an outreach ministry of St. Peter's. And I think, Sally, you're a founding member.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am. And you know who else is? Sandy
Yep.
and Chris Knight.
Sandy and Chris Knight. That's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gosh, y'all
wow.
started when you were 10. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You are so right.
Anyway, we're very anxious to hear about the Haven and what you guys are doing and if there's anything new and how we can help. So I'll turn it over to you for a few minutes and then we'll have some questions and answer time. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you everyone for being here this morning. I love being able to get up and talk about the Haven of Grace. It's just a wonderful mission, and I'm just truly glad to be a part of it. I was thinking last night as I was thinking about this conversation, I am actually working on my 4th year of being with the Haven. And the time went by so quickly. I started in January of 2018. And so we're already in year 4. But I'll go ahead and just kind of give my spiel that I normally do, just kind of how the program works. If anyone, is new to what it is that we do. So obviously the Haven of Grace is a maternity center. It's listed as a maternity shelter, but one of the things that I did internally when I came in is we have young ladies there, and no one wants to say or own mentally that they live in a shelter. And so on the paperwork, it still says shelter, but it within the community, and when we're talking to the young ladies, we refer to the Haven of Grace as a maternity center. And so it's a 3-tiered program. And tier 1 is actually a maternity center. A young lady needs to be 3 months pregnant in order to come in, and she can stay in the center up to 1 year after the birth of her baby. So that can be a year and 6 months. And we feel that that length of time gives them an opportunity to bond with the baby, learn learn real parenting skills from some of the other mothers that are there, the mothers that are in the quad, but in addition to some of the team members who are moms. And so during that first year that they're there, we have a program, a matriculation program that we ask that they follow. And there are 5 to 7 classes that are required. And one of those is breastfeeding, the importance of folic acid, basic nutrition, how to prepare nutritious meals. And then it's faith-based. So we bring in people who come in and talk with the ladies. And so those are those 7 core. There are 7 core items that we ask that they matriculate. After that, then there are optional classes, but we do ask that they attend those classes as well. One of the classes that I instituted was an infant CPR class. I just think that it's very important that everyone knows how to save their own child's life and not be in a situation where they would have to rely on someone else to do that. And as a matter of fact, we had a class 2 weeks ago in which 5 moms participated in infant CPR. And I mentioned that in a grant that I wrote, and they were just ecstatic that that was something that we do. No one else was doing that. And so we do the infant CPR for the moms. And actually, Fiona Woods had given us a binder, a household management binder. So we're using that. And basically, the household management binder is things that all of us sitting here just know. We know how to do it. But it's something as simple as being able to identify proper measuring tools, how to prepare based on portion control. I had to teach myself that, just because a bag of Hershey's Kisses says it's 8 servings, you don't get to eat all the servings yourself, Kim. That's for 8 people. And so we are actually teaching the moms how to look at labels and see how many servings are in a label, how many pieces of chicken are in this bag, that you don't have to just cook indiscriminately. You don't have to just cook everything that's in the bag. You can take part of it out and freeze it. And so, believe it or not, skills as simple as that are things that we have to teach. I share a story, two stories that I like to share. I went to the kitchen. This was about a year ago. And one of the young ladies was running a fork under the faucet and taking dish detergent and pointing on the fork and watched the fork, and she'd rinse it out and she put it in the sink drain, and she'd reach over and she grabbed the knife and she'd do the same thing. So I'm looking, and I just off the cuff, I'll just say, Brenda, I said, Brenda, make you a sink of dishwater so you can wash the dishes. And so I finished making my lunch, and I looked and she still was doing the same thing. And I said, Brenda, I need you to make you a sink of dishwater so you can wash the dishes. And she's like, I don't know what you mean. And I'm like, let me show you. We're going to make a sink of dishwater. You wash your dishes and then you rinse them. And her response to me was, so I'm just going to keep washing dishes in a dirty sink of water? So it didn't even computate to her that it's a sink of water, but you're going to rinse it. And so it's things as simple as that we have to teach, and we're happy to teach. So all of those things. And so while they're in the maternity center, they get case management, they get therapeutic services. We're one of the few centers that have a full-time counselor on staff. They are required to see the counselor twice a week. They are required to have case management twice a week. So the difference between counseling and case management, counseling is mental and therapeutic health. And so it's talk therapy. The case management is the piece that helps the moms set their goals, work through their goals, help them find jobs and how to keep those jobs. And so that encompasses the maternity center. They still do their meals and sit down as a family and have family meals twice a week. And it's amazing that once we look back in the kitchen and we see there are some moms that come there and they do know how to fix a meal. But we watch some of the others and we don't, and we see how they delegate out. So they may know that Kimberly really doesn't know how to cook. So they will say, well, we'll let Kimberly make the juice. And so then next time, maybe Kimberly can peel the potatoes. So we see them teaching each other, and we see them in the maternity shelter, the maternity center rather, working with and rallying around that new mom. That's her first baby. And so, a new mom bathing an infant is terrifying. It's just terrifying to them. And so when we have, some of the more seasoned moms that have been there with us, since they had their baby, and they will watch the infant while the new mom is able to take a shower. You can't take a shower and watch your baby at the same time. So that's part of what goes on in the maternity center. It helps them to bond with other young ladies that can help them just as they start to learn their maternal skills. Okay, once they graduate from the maternity center, should they wish, we have the transitional partners. They're called the quads. And those are 7 units. They are completely furnished all the way from the forks and knives and paper towels, all the way to new bedding, the beds, the dressers. All they have to do is walk across campus and move into that apartment. So the only caveat to moving there is the young lady must be employed, because there is a minimal amount of rent that they pay, and that's $200 per month. So now I want everyone to understand that $200 per month does not make the Haven a rich place. It does not break the ladies. The $200 a month is simply to start to teach the young ladies that you must pay where you stay, okay? In addition to it only being $200 a month, we know that the majority of the moms become homeless because of a myriad of circumstances. And 1 or 2 of those is eviction. If you're in a subsidized housing, some subsidized housing will evict you if your utilities are not on. And so we have moms that have been evicted because of failure to pay. We have moms who've been evicted because they could not keep the utilities on and those were on. So that ties back to the reason we only charge them $200 per month. They can stay in that program for 2 years. What that allows them to do is take the bulk of their money, number one, save a portion of it, but number two, address those outstanding bills that they have in the community that would preclude them from moving into a nicer apartment. Okay, so we use that 2 years to help them pay off, their bills, so that when they get ready to move, they don't have an eviction standing over their head. They don't have an outstanding light bill over their head, because if you have outstanding utilities, you have to pay that before you can get it turned on. So it's a great program, but particularly it allows them to save if they don't have outstanding bills. That's awesome. We've had one mom come to us, well, actually several, come to us from complete homelessness. And by the time they were ready to move out of the quads, one young lady had $6,000 saved up. We have another young lady, she has about 5,000 saved up, and she actually came to me about 2 weeks ago, letting me know. She said, well, when I get my stimulus check, I want you to, hi Ann, I want you to show me how to set up a Roth IRA. And so what I've done with the ladies is, you can just find a Roth IRA calculator and just plug in the numbers. And what I do with them is I say, okay, let's just plug this number in. You're 23 years old now. If you just put in $20 a pay period, let it stay until you're 59 and a half, this is how much money you will have. They've never considered the beauty of compound interest. So when that young lady saw, oh, wait a minute, if I put my stimulus check in here and I just put $50 a month in here for the next 30 years and don't take it out, I have $1 million. Yeah, close to it, unless the market crash every day. And so she actually came to me last week and let me know that when she got her stimulus check, she wanted me to show her how to go about opening up a Roth IRA. So that's part of what we look to do when we move them to the quad, is to expand their financial knowledge and help them see that, where they are right now, everyone is it's just a chapter in their life. It's not the whole book. It's just a chapter. And let's just get through this chapter and, try to see what it's going to look like in 20 years instead of concentrating on 3 years. So that's pretty much the quads. And like I said, they can stay there. After they move from the quad, now let me back up. As soon as the ladies come into the program, we put them on what St. Louis has, a housing prioritization list. And that is for people who are identified as homeless. So when apartments become available, their name goes to the top of the list because they are homeless. Now, I want to share something also. We had a young lady, Doris. Doris came to us 8 months pregnant. And I try to send pictures out. And if you guys would like to be on the Haven happenings, every time we have a baby, Ann gets it, I send you all pictures of the new babies. So Doris came to us 8 months pregnant. And we laugh and joke that we gave her the tour and we showed her the closet back there where the food is, the pantry. And she says, so you mean I can cook and eat when I want to? Absolutely, Doris. Well, Doris is a fabulous cook. Doris came through the door cooking and eating. And in a little more than a month, Doris had almost a 9-pound baby boy. And everybody is doing fine. But I go back to say her name came up on the prioritization list. Well, she had moved to the quad by then. So Doris came to us and she said, well, my name came up on the list. She said, but what I do think is that the Haven of Grace in the quads is a better fit for me right now. And I want to know, do I have to move? No, you don't. You stay on the list and your name will come back up. They just want to make sure that you're housed. And so Doris remains with the quad. She has probably about another maybe 6 months to stay at the quad. But she has told us, Doris has 2 more children who are in the custody, well, not in custody, but her family has the 2 children. But Doris has told us that this is the first time that she has actually parented a child, actually truly parented her child. But even more, Doris has shared with us that she's been on this job a little more than 2 years because she got the job right as soon as she came through the door, she applied for a job and they gave it to her. So she says this is the first time that she has been able to hold a job for over a year. And it is, you've got to get the child in daycare. You can't do anything with not having the child in daycare. So Doris is definitely a success story. And so once they have completed their time at the quad, they can either go back onto the prioritization list when their name comes up and they can move back to the community, or they can find their own apartment, and we help them do that. And so then they become a part of the aftercare program. And this is what I call the star on top of the Christmas tree. It's a 10-year program that the mothers can participate in. And what it does is it keeps them connected to the Haven of Grace, and they can still receive their case management. They still receive therapeutic counseling. We're doing all of that by Zoom now. They still receive budgeting and finance. If they need questions asked, all they need to do is call. Even during COVID, I was able to write a grant. We're all aware that they put the rents on a moratorium, the evictions on a moratorium. And so I wrote a grant saying that I needed money to help pay for the rents and the utilities of our aftercare parents. So the grantor called me and they said, well, Kimberly, this is a well-written grant, but I don't know if you are aware that the rents are on, the evictions are on moratorium. And I said, okay, yes, we're aware, but I'm also aware that at some point that moratorium is going to lift. So we don't want our moms to be sitting there with no job and then worrying for the next 4 months, how am I going to pay this rent that's 4 months behind? So I was able to get a grant that allowed us to just go ahead and pay their rents so that they never fell behind, to pay their utilities so that they never fell behind. Those are the things that we're able to do for our aftercare moms. And so they're able to stay in that program for 10 years. As a matter of fact, Karen, our program director, we have things called Mom's Day Out. And we try to do them twice a year. We weren't able to do it last year because of COVID. We did do it. It was right at the height of COVID. We were, the Italian restaurant right there in Brentwood, Mangiano's. And so we were well spaced out. And so we were able to do it at Mangiano's. So this year we will be doing it, but it will be on the campus and we'll have everyone spread out. So we do Mom's Day Out. And those are events just for our aftercare moms. We provide daycare, and it is a training session for them. At the end of that, we do a survey. What is it that they need to hear from us? What are they not receiving from us? And so like I say, we do that to keep them engaged with the Haven so that the work that they did for 3 years is sustainable. And so we do feel that 13 years, I've said it all along, 1 year is excellent, 3 years is really good, but 13 years is a change maker. And so, we are looking at babies that were born and they've been in the program. We've had some moms that are aging out of aftercare. And so we're looking at babies that were born. And so now they're 10, 12, 13 years old. So that's kind of the Haven of Grace in a nutshell. And all of that is run by 14 people. So any questions from anyone? Yes, ma'am. Ms. McKay?
Yeah.
Okay, did you have?
So how many can you take at a time? How many can be in sort of your total program, like program 1, program 2?
Mm-hmm. So program 1, which is the maternity center, which is right there in the 1225 building. We have 10 rooms. 8 of those rooms can hold a mom and 2 little ones. We have 2 larger rooms that will hold a mom, 2 little ones, and an infant. So total, we can have 10 moms, 20, 22 children in the maternity center. In the quads are 7 apartments, and those apartments are pretty much big enough for a mom and 2 children. And so currently in the quad, we have 4 moms and 5 children. Yes, ma'am.
Katie?
Yeah, hold on. So just trying to get my mute off.
Oh,
So, do you have a waiting list? Are you pressed for spaces?
It just kind of depends. During COVID, we did have a bit of a waiting list because people were really trying to get off the street. Right now, we have 6 in the center because one lady just moved out, but it won't take but 2 or 3 days to have, it back up to 8 or 9. So, let's be honest. Some of the moms that come, they are not used to a disciplined environment. And so when they come to the community, they really can't get comfortable with. I try to tell them when I was a young girl growing up, there was a time that I needed to be in the house, but there was also a time that I didn't leave the house. So they have a little bit of a difficulty sometimes adhering to curfew that we have, particularly during COVID season. And so we have some moms that decide that, okay, it's a little bit more restrictive than I care to participate.
That must be tough.
It is. It is. When we see them make that decision to leave, and believe me, we do all we can to keep them there. At least just stay until the birth of the baby. Or if you have the baby and the baby is less than 6 weeks old, just go ahead and stay and work the program until the baby is, at least 3 months old. But, we have to understand that I explain to my program team, oftentimes it can feel disheartening when you give your all and you put in 10 hours and you should be at home with your family and you're still there doing paperwork, and they decide to leave anyway and decide not to work the program. So I encourage my program staff who work more directly with the ladies, at the end of the day, make sure that you find a success. Make sure that you find a success that you did. Because if not, you will not feel that you did your job. And we have to understand that if we kept, I'm just going to use the name Brenda. We don't have any Brendas out here. If we keep Brenda off the street and out from under the bus shelter for 2 weeks, we have helped her. We have helped her. And so I just encourage my staff to make sure that at the end of every day, when they walk out their door, that they can identify at least one success day. And so, yes, it's difficult to see them make the decision.
Yep.
Wow, that's your program's so impressive. I love the way it has such a long-term. So what percentage of the women, some drop out at each stage? So,
well, pretty much once they get to the quad, they're stable. They realize that is really a good deal. So aftercare, they're stable there. So let me back in. When I came into the Haven of Grace, the aftercare program was already there. And the aftercare program had about 60 people on the list, but they were non-participative. And they were non-participative because it was just a set way that the program had to run. And so I shared with the board that I felt like we were, I used the analogy of a low country boil, that we had a low country boil and it had shrimp and potatoes and sausage and everything in it and corn. And we're trying to push that whole low country boil on them. But Brenda only wants the shrimp out. Janice only wants the corn out. But we kept trying to push this whole pot. And so what we did is I backed out and I said, okay, let's revamp this. Let's set the aftercare program up in 3 tiers. So tier 1, just case management and therapeutic counseling. That's it. Tier 2 is case management, therapeutic counseling, financial assistance. So if you get behind in your rent, financial assistance. Tier 3, all of those things, plus you get to be adopted at Christmas time. So we allowed people to choose how much participation they wanted based on what they wanted to get out of the program. And so we allowed everybody to come back through and re-sign up. We told them what the parameters were. So out of that 60, we did have some that were aging out of the program, so probably about 10 aged out of the program. But what we have now is 20 people who are consistent. So the aftercare program is set in stone. It's pretty consistent. And then when these moms that are in the quad now, when they graduate from the quad, they'll go to the aftercare program. So the quad and the aftercare program is pretty stable. Pretty much the turnover comes in the maternity center because the moms, their life has been so chaotic. And then when you come into an environment where there is structure, there are expectations for success, if they can't wrap their mind around, if I can just get past this year and a half, and then I'm at the quad and it's a little looser. So that's where we lose most of our moms, right there at the maternity center.
Chris
Thank you.
asked where the babies are delivered? Where are
The
the
moms
babies?
get to choose what hospital. The moms choose what hospital they like. We make sure that they all get their prenatal care. We provide transportation for the prenatal care, take them there, bring them back, help them stay coordinated so that they don't miss appointments. But we've got babies born at SSM, BJC, and all across Mercy. And so wherever they choose to go, we help them get there. As long as they don't have them at the Haven, okay? That's my thing.
I love it. I remember that there was a group of women of Grace or something that had an event at St. Peter's. Gosh, it's been a couple of years ago. Is that group still active or in existence?
Yes, it's still intact. And but what happened was COVID just kind of shut everything down. But it is still intact. And if I'm not mistaken, the program team is the program committee, which is a committee comprised of board members. They have reached out to the Women of Grace for Mother's Day baskets for the moms. So it is still intact. And if anybody would be interested, I can get you that information. And so basically the Women of Grace, they're more about providing services for the moms. We've got everybody that provides for the new baby. But Women of Grace, they concentrate on the moms, making sure that the moms have a baby shower, making sure that they, are acknowledged on their birthday. And so just that's their target.
I think Karen, you were involved in that, or we had talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. And because of COVID, we didn't get it off the ground like we really wanted to. But I'll make a plea for anyone that would like to join the development committee at the Haven. It's a really fun group. And we're going to start doing a lot more now, which I'm excited about. Yeah.
Development is fun.
It is fun.
It makes you a stronger person.
Yes, it does. And it'll eliminate a few of my night terrors, But I do want to say, just share that we have coming up. I tell people everywhere that Mother's Day really should be our blowout event at the Haven of Grace. And so we're setting up, trying to get in gear for Mother's Day. So what we do have is a pickup brunch from Sess and Judy's catering. They're going to set a brunch up for us. And if I'm not mistaken, $5 from every brunch will come to the Haven of Grace, kind of like Crown Candy did when they did the candy sales for us. We also have from, I have to get their name right, Grimm's Bricks Cruise Floral Company. They are, it is a beautiful bouquet for Mother's Day. The bouquet will sell for $65 and $10 from every purchase of that bouquet will come to the Haven of Grace. Additionally, we will have a Mother's Day tribute. That's just like a $10 card and we can send to your mom or whoever has shown, that motherly love to you. So we're doing our best to kind of pass through this COVID season and still fundraise and be socially distant with that. But I've just always felt that Mother's Day should be our blowout event for the Haven of Grace.
Is that information on your website?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I
I
think
have
it's
another
great that
question.
you've done the affiliations with other companies. I think that's wonderful.
Yes.
Kimberly, good morning. Good morning. It's so good to see
Good morning.
you. I'm
Good
sorry.
morning, Ann.
I'm sorry I was late.
Oh, that's
Just
okay.
a couple thoughts. One is that I think it's remarkable that the ladies and the staff have not gotten COVID, and I was wondering how you did that. My other thought is one of
Okay.
my favorite things when the emails pop up from the Haven Happenings are the pictures of you with the children, with the babies. And it just seems to me that you
Mhm.
are able to balance your day as an executive director and also as a grandmother to all these children. And it's
Mhm.
just so dear to see that.
Well, I love doing it, and it's almost like when they come in, I'm the first person they come to with that baby. And when Mateo was born, I mean, she came straight to me. I was off that first day, and she came straight to me when I came back. And a quick story, not last year, but the year before, I went to Egypt for about 3 weeks, and about 2.5 weeks. And there were a couple of babies to be born right when I was returning. And so I was just sure it had happened while I was gone. But it was 2 days after I got back. And when I came in, both of them came to me with the babies. And so that's part of the joy of my job. You know, I put in that little post that I sent out of all the wonderful things that you can hold in your hand. A baby is the best. And so I just love when they come healthy. We've just not had any unhealthy babies born. We've not had anyone to have extended hospital stay. And I have to give the team their kudos for just making sure that they wake Brenda up. Listen, you have a doctor's appointment today. And you know, and I'm gonna need you to put that red juice down and get you some water. So we do a really great job of just trying to help the moms, and that's probably the best part of my job. Before COVID, people could come in my office and it may be 3 car seats against the wall because it's Miss Kimberly, can I leave the baby here while I work on the computer in the education room? And so it's by far the best part of my job. But to address your statement about COVID, how were we able to do that? The first thing I realized is that we are a small staff. And all I needed was for one mom or one staff to contract COVID, and I would basically have to shut the entire community down. And we couldn't do that. So at the onset of COVID, because we are an essential staff, we have to be there. So at the onset of COVID, what I did was I had half the team work one week and the other half work from home. Then we switched, okay, you came back. So that was number one. Number two, we went into COVID protocol 909, which is our temperatures, and we still continue to take our temperatures and log them twice daily. We all wore our masks. Now, the Haven of Grace, we don't have a housekeeping crew at the Haven of Grace. The way the community is made, the front of the community is our office staff, and the back of the community is the mom's apartments. So at the front of the community, 3 times a day, 10, 2, and 4, we got up and we were all on rotation. 2 people got up and we cleaned that community. It took about 10 minutes. We wiped everything down with bleach. We wiped all the door handles on the inside, on the outside, all the push buttons, everything that could be touched. We wiped down. I think the Haven of Grace may have been part of the sanitizing the Lysol wipe shortage. Okay, because we kept the community. The program staff was responsible for making sure that they kept the back of the community clean. We put the complete stop on anybody coming into the community because we've got babies. We've got babies and pregnant moms. So if we were getting packages delivered, you know, you need to leave it at the door, and we'll pick it up from there. We actually stopped taking any kind of donations, and we asked if people had donations that they wanted to make, Pampers, baby clothes, that you just bought it off of Amazon or Walmart.com and had it delivered to the community. Now, making sure that the moms learned protocol and stuck to it, it was a job, but we had to teach them to do it. they're young. They didn't want to wear the mask, but you have to wear the mask. And so we just went into just COVID overload. And so as Ann say, we've not had one person, one staff person, one employee, no one. And to be a small community, I give myself and the staff kudos for that. I'm big at writing grants if I can, and if I can get someone to help us, I will do that. And so I did write a grant, and I explained to them that we are a small community. We don't have a housekeeping crew. So when we leave during the day, our midnight person, the person that works that midnight shift, that person comes up and vacuums our area in the front. That person comes and cleans our staff bathroom. That person wipes everything down. That's our housekeeping. So I wrote a grant asking someone to pay for me to have a disinfecting crew come into the Haven of Grace and disinfect the entire community with what, they have COVID disinfectant. And I got the grant. They allowed me to have someone come in and disinfect the entire unit for against COVID. And so other than that, we just worked hard. We all wore our masks. And the Haven of Grace is small. Everyone in the office there has their own office. So one of the things that I asked was, and we're a small crew and we were used to just getting up, going to someone's door and talking to them, asking what we need. So when COVID, introduced itself to us, I said, okay, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to stay in our office and pick up the phone and call the person next door to you or send them an email. So we kind of cut the going from, room to room, asking questions. We just kind of quarantined ourselves in our own offices and did our job.
Great. Yeah, that is a success story.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You are such a blessing to the Haven.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I love what I do.
You can tell.
And Kimberly, I don't know if you noticed, but Annie Knapp joined us too, and she is our new Anne from Director of Children and Youth. So I just wanted to point her out to put a face with the name.
Well, hi, Annie.
Yes, it's so good to see you virtually.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And so
Well,
hopefully,
So who else has questions for me?
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I do. I have, can you hear me? I have two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
One is, I used to work in education in a lot of the inner city schools. And one of the things that in a lot of the sort of training we had is if we can get one generation to realize how important education is, if one generation comes to you and they're not on drugs and trying, then they can sort of really have a belief about education a bit, even though they don't have it. And then their children would be the generation that really can hopefully break out of poverty. How much do you talk about education with the moms, and especially probably a lot of them, the experience they had in it? That's one. And then number two, once COVID's over, do you have volunteers?
Okay, so the second question is easier to answer. Yes, once COVID is over, we will be embracing our volunteers again. So actually, we have what we call some like social distance volunteer work. So if people want to come and we have apartments over at the Quad. If someone wants to move, is moving and someone wants to come and help clean that apartment so that we can get it ready for the next person. So you're basically kind of working by yourself or the little group that you brought with you. And so that we have some kind of social distance volunteer activities available, but not many because of COVID. The education piece, one of the things when the moms come in, we do a determination, do you have your GED? And so I kind of go back to the shrimp boil analogy. Do you want to get your GED? Okay, we've had some ladies just decide, I don't have time for that. I'd rather go ahead and work. Okay, so do you realize that your income increases as your education increases? Yeah, but I'll get to it later on. And so getting a GED for a person who didn't finish maybe 11th grade or didn't get past 11th grade is difficult. I read a study. I used to teach GED classes, and if you're lacking in, one or two of those disciplines, it's going to be difficult for you. And so I read a study in which they gave an actual GED graduation test to some high school students, 12th grade students, in very good schools, and a large percentage of them failed that test. And so if a person, because GED is self-directed, even if you go to a class, you have to go home and do the work yourself. You don't have a teacher that's going to be pushing you to do your homework. And so the dropout rate is pretty high. But we do talk to our moms about it. Doris is an example. Doris is doing GED classes online. She's going to make it. But is it taking her a while? Yes, because the minute they need somebody to work overtime, Doris's hand go up. But she is invested in getting it. Now, I was doing some stats a couple of weeks ago. I want to say
That's
more than 75% of our, and it goes back to, like I was saying, their lives are so chaotic that, finding time out and money to go to community college is.
Yeah,
We're not
I
getting
did
a
see
message
that.
that says it's weak.
Pardon me?
Just did. Okay.
Oh, we did?
Can you hear me?
Thank you for muting things. That's okay. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, and so if going to the next level of education it can be kind of intimidating. If I barely made it out of high school, and so it's just it's difficult. It's just another layer of difficulty, and so when your life is surrounded by chaos and uncertainty, and you've got 3 children to raise on your own and no help, it's difficult. It's difficult.
Great. Yeah, Katie, another question?
Sorry about that issue with
That's
the
okay.
microphone. So I have a question. So I think I guess I'm wondering, this is sort of may seem like a superficial question, but I do think it's part of the fun and the joy of young motherhood is discovering books to read with your children, having that baby shower, maybe learning how to make something for your baby, all of those things. And I wonder how you deal with, for instance, baby clothing and baby, you mentioned a baby shower. How does that all work? And sort of, and also, is there a library, of children's books as well as mothering books or whatever,
So we are the recipient. There is a nonprofit out there called Books for Babies, and we are recipient of their books. And I am a bibliophile. I love books. If I could turn this around, you see the whole wall full of books here. And so we get books from Babies, and they are age appropriate. So they have books that moms can read to their little ones. Then we have, the books for the 2- and 3-year-olds. And so we embrace that. We have a library with tons of baby books for the moms to choose from. And so that is well taken care of as far as that. The baby clothes, we get people that donate baby clothes to us. I have a grant that allows me to buy every swaddler, every onesie, everything that new baby needs, pacifiers, bottles. So that portion is taken care of for the babies. It's really easy for me to write grants to people to help us support the babies because everybody loves babies. And so those grants go over really well. The difficulty comes in writing grants to help pay for the staff for my people. And so it's just a thing that goes on in the nonprofit world. We do want you to do the program, but we don't want to pay you to pay the people to do the program. So we get, I have no problem securing funds to buy the clothes for the babies. If we think about it, you can buy a pack of onesies, for what, $10 to outfit for children. We have moms that come in. I had a mom come in several months pregnant, and it was in the winter. And it was during that snowmageddon that we had. It was just awful cold. And she came to the community with a short sleeve t-shirt on, slides with her feet in slides, no socks, a baby on, several months pregnant, a baby on her hip, and the baby didn't have any shoes. So, we can afford those things. We were never at a lack for infant clothing and Pampers. There's a St. Louis diaper bank. And so we can reach out to them if we need Pampers. So we're most of the time pretty well set on things for the infants.
So how about the mother's clothing, and especially maternity clothing and that kind of thing? Is anyone helping with that?
So it's all about writing grants and finding money. And so when I can write a grant for what I call general operating funds, it allows me to use that money where I think is best, whether I use it for the light bill, or whether I use it for the landscaping, or whether I use it for maternity clothes. And so we purchase, their maternity clothes.
Kimberly, I know a lot of people on the Zoom call are really excellent gardeners. Have you talked to, and I might have missed this, have you talked about your new relationship and collaboration with the botanical garden?
I haven't yet. Here we go with the grant writing again. Fiona put before me a grant through the Garden Club of St. Louis. And I wrote that grant, and I wrote the grant for $5,000 to help us revamp the garden and the outside area at the Haven of Grace. It's important for me to share with you all that our moms come from inner city, and they come from an environment where it may not necessarily be safe to just sit outside. It may not be necessarily safe for your child to play outside, and you're looking out the window. And so what I noticed was that the moms don't go outside. And it's just because it's not what they're used to. But what I also know is the beauty of and the therapeutic value of being outside and being in the flowers and being with the trees and the beauty that nature provides us. And so that was the stand that I took when I wrote the grant. Help us to revamp the gardens so that we can introduce our moms to just the beauty of being outside. I grew up on a 100-acre farm, so my backyard was Forest Park. But the young ladies here, they spend their time, they're texting, they're swiping right. And so because of that, their children don't go outside. So, but anyway, I wrote the grant for $5,000 and I got the grant. So we, in collaboration with Jane Pons, she is just phenomenal. She came in and looked at everything and, okay, this is what I think you need. Our landscaper, oh my goodness, is a focal point. Little did I know, she knew our landscaper, which was focal point. So he came out and said, okay, this is what you need. He helped design this. She also bought in, or I made an agreement with St. Patrick's Center. They have a landscaping training program. So they will allow their gentlemen to come in and do the digging and planting and pulling up as part of their training program. So it all just gelled together. I'll say it again, God does not give you a vision without giving you the provision. And so it all just gelled together. And, we've started planting. And so obviously it's going to be 3 years before it's fully beautiful. So I've told all the staff, nobody can go anywhere for at least 3 years. So we can see the beautification here. But it's just going to be a total revamp. When I came, we've got concrete raised beds over at the quads. Those were filled up full of rocks. So we're digging all those rocks out and we're going to put herbs in there, strawberries and herbs and tomatoes, so that the moms can just come out of the quad and go pick what they want. If you just want to stand there and pick strawberries off the bush and eat them, you can do that. But now also there are, and I think anybody here who grows roses know that rose bushes are temperamental little animals. You know, I didn't know until I was, because you have to water them from the bottom. You can't spray all across the top. But the rose bushes that were there, obviously they were put in place when the quads were built. But now I'm still trying to figure out who thought it was a good idea to put roses in the kids' playground. And so they were dying, and those roses turned into Venus flytraps because you walk by and it just grabbed you. So those rose bushes are coming out, and all the plants that we're putting in are native perennials. So they will come back beautiful. They will come back more full each year. And then, you know, once we get them stabilized, it's just going to be a total revamp. And so we put out a press release last week. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there'll be photo ops, you know, of people doing the work sometime next week. But it's a new project that we're working on, and one that I'm just happy to see take place.
That's wonderful. That sounds great. That will be, yeah, nice to drive by, or nice to, you know, help weed, you know, there'll be some opportunities there, I'm sure, for help.
Yes.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments? No?
Well, before I go, I don't know if he's still here, but I saw a Tim Noker. Is he still out here?
He had a 9:30 conflict, so he got on and had to leave, but he said thank you in the chat.
Janet, I just wanted to mention to Kay that
Okay.
I visited the Haven of Grace, and it's a marvelous facility, and it's a real gem. It's a 30-year gem. It's an amazing place, and they also had a food pantry that they can use donations to. I know that.
You know, I wanted to share also that she reached out to us on Facebook. I knew that when I came aboard, I'm like, okay, this place has been in business 30 years. There are Haven babies out here that are 30 years old somewhere, y'all. Nobody thought about that. And but we had a lady reach out to us on Facebook, and she said, my name is Linda, I believe. And she said, I was a Haven mom, you know, when you guys first started. And she said, the baby that I had is coming, either getting ready to retire from the military. Right.
Wow. Wow.
Or yeah, just right at his last few years in the military. And so I'm just thinking there are Haven babies out there. I was working with a lady down in the city, at the city of St. Louis, down at 1520 Market Street, when I first came to the Haven, and there were some problems with a grant that was there. And you know, it's always nice to play, I'm the new kid on the block, how can I help? And so I threw the new kid on the block card out there, and I'm like, whatever went wrong, let me try to figure it out. And so we started talking, and this was pre-COVID, and I was down at the 1520 building, and she leaned over next to me and she said, you know, I was a Haven lady. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And
Janet,
because of that, I believe that kind of helped smooth the path. I don't know what was going on, but it kind of helped smooth the path. But she says, you know, I was a Haven lady. Oh. And so there are plenty of moms out there that we have made a difference for. And, you know, just being able to be in the community on a daily basis, you know, I'm able to see, you know, the successes and sometimes the failures that happen. But more often than not, you see what you look for. And I do look for the successes. A young lady named Dominique came to me. The Haven of Grace, as you guys know, is open 24 hours. So us day staff, we're there 8:30 to 5. And we have a night person come in and work 4 to midnight. Then another person come in and work midnight to 8:30. So one morning I came in, a young lady named Dominique came to me, and Dominique loved to eat. Dominique loved breakfast. She would eat breakfast all day long, but she particularly loved pancakes. So I would go back there and Dominique would be eating these little burnt flat pancakes with syrup on them, but she was loving them. So she came to me one day, and I mean, they were awful looking pancakes. But she came to me one day, she said, Miss Kimberly, do you have a thank you card? I'm like, sure. I said, who are you thanking? She said, I want to thank Miss Sylvia, who was one of our night staff who would be there in the morning, Miss Sylvia. And I still have that thank you note. I made a copy of it. And what she wanted to thank her for is she said, Miss Sylvia taught me how to make the most fluffiest, tastiest pancakes I ever had. She said, now, Miss Kimberly, I don't know if you know what the secret is to making fluffy pancakes. I said, well, of course I know. I said, well, no, what is the secret? She said, well, number one, you don't try to flip it until the little bubbles pop up on the top. She said, but when you flip it, she said, for God's sake, don't mash it. So then I go back and she has these fluffy pancakes, but I say that to say, that's a little success. And I tell the staff that baby girl that Dominique had will never ever meet Miss Sylvia, but she will hear about Miss Sylvia because that Dominique is going to make sure that she knows.
I don't need to.
You know, Miss Sylvia taught me how to make pancakes.
Right.
So those are the successes that we see every day. You know, when you ask them, okay, well, what have you learned before you move out of here? And I had a young lady tell me, well, I learned that I can't feed my child pizza rolls every day. It's little things. And so we take those and we hold on to them.
Oh, that's wonderful. Sally, I know you're.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Well, Kimberly, this has been a wonderful visit with you. You've done a super job. I want to add my thanks not only to you, but to St. Peter's. Without St. Peter's, we wouldn't be here today. So kudos to St. Peter's and especially to you and for all the wonderful things you've done for us.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that the Haven was here to be my revival job after retirement. So said, hey, yes. So I'm glad the Haven is here as well.
You know what, when you finally do retire and write your inspirational novel, can you let us know so we can all buy a copy?
I will, but I told Karen if I decide to retire, that I'll come back as a RSS, as a night staff person.
Oh, bless your heart there. Oh my goodness.
Staff person. It'll be a while though.
Oh,
well,
that was going to be my question. You're not retiring. I wouldn't say from the looks of you, you're not retiring soon, but I hope you're not retiring.
I appreciate that. I actually retired in 2014. I will quote what my grandmother used to say, you know, thank you for the compliment, but I feel better than I look. So
you can't retire within 3 years. You have to wait until there's.
Oh, goodness gracious, no. Goodness gracious, no. We've got another. I don't when the executive search person was looking for me, he said, well, I see you where you were for 26 years, 27 years before you left. And we're looking for someone to come and, you know, work with the Haven and get it, you know, solidified. I can do that for you, but I promise you I don't have 27 more years. Okay. I got a good 10 or 12, but I don't have 27 more years. And so all is right with the world there at the Haven. All is right with the world. As long as Crown Candy stays there, I keep coming.
Well, your energy and enthusiasm and passion for this is infectious. And so we thank you so much for joining us.
You're
it's
very
such
welcome.
a treat.
You're very welcome. Thank
and
you
we have a
all.
number of parishioners. If anybody would like to reach out for more information or pass it on, I'm looking at a lot of people that that were there from the beginning and joined a little later. So don't worry, this won't be the last time that we will see you or be involved. And hopefully you and Annie can work out something and maybe we can pick up some trash to make those grounds even prettier. So
thank you. Thank you. Get in touch with me, Miss Annie.
Yep.
I will, yes. I'll try and get a hold of you in the next few weeks or so.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you all. I have to go to church again. So I
Thank
appreciate you
you.
joining us and supporting us. And we'll talk to you soon.
All
Bye.
right. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Kimberly.
Thank you guys for having us.
All righty. See you
Bye-bye.
later.
Thank you for coming.